Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well and I really hope you're loving my Halloween series so far. I'm super excited about this video because if you remember back at the beginning of my Halloween series, I really talked about creating silicone inlays. I'll link it here or above, but I did a video where I created a ton of silicone inlays and I said, I'm going to use these in my Halloween videos, and honestly I don't feel like I even have. So today is the day that we are using our DIY silicone inlays in a tray, and I'm excited about it because yeah, they kind of sat there staring at me for a while like, what's going on? You made us and you haven't really even used us. So this tray is a beauty. This was actually sent to me a while back, actually a long while back, by Goldline Artistry over in India. They sent me a huge bundle, like a huge bundle of molds and inlays and drusies, and this was amongst them, and it is a gorgeous tray. It's just almost perfect. I want to say a pen tray. It's perfect for like pen sized things, or you know, jewellery, trinket tray, whatever you want to make it. But yeah, I knew this tray would be perfect for what I wanted in this video. Now, yes, I'm using more Chameleon powders. I'm sorry, okay? When I fall in love with something, it's really hard to move on. So yeah, until this current obsession goes, here we are. What I wanted to do was create the rim first before I place my inlays down. Now you can see here, I'm going to use tape to clean the surface. So whilst I was dusting this inner rim with Chameleon powders, I do not want any Chameleon powder or resin on that flat surface. That is going to be where I'm placing my silicone inlays the next day. So I knew it was very important to get the rim done first, so dusted with chameleons and filled with the black resin before I leave it to cure overnight and use my inlays. So yes, this is a bit lengthy, bit of a process, but you can see here I just used a wet wipe, or you can use sellotape. I used both. I used sellotape first, then a wet wipe to thoroughly clean my mould. So this is the next day, the black resin has cured, and now it's a question of placement. Where do I want my silicone inlays? What pattern do I want to create? Do I want 5 skulls, because there's loads of room here to play with, or do I want like a combination of skull, cross? And yeah, I really just played around with all of the inlays that I made in that video, and I did decide and I settled on this combination. So we are putting 5 silicone inlays in this mould, skull, cross, skull, because I figured that would be the creepiest combination. The next thing I'm doing, I'm actually using Vista Cascade here, because Vista Cascade has got a longer work time and it takes 24 hours to cure, and I knew that I might need some time to play around with these inlays and wiggle them, make sure they're in the right place. Sometimes inlays can move in resin. If you put things in resin, they can move. So with the Cascade, I've got the luxury of more time to make sure that they don't move and they get them exactly central to where I want them. And yeah, it didn't work. So ignore all of everything I just said. We got movement. So just do whatever you want, basically. Don't be like me. All I'm doing before I'm placing my inlays down, you saw there that I use my heat gun to really clean that resin out of any air bubbles that are kind of hiding. And now I'm just basically coating my inlays in resin. The reason I'm doing this is because we are placing them in the resin upside down. And of course these skulls have got lots of detail. They've got the eye sockets, the nose socket and all them teeth. And I don't want them to form air bubbles in the resin when we flip them upside down. Did it work? No, we got air bubbles, but it's okay. It's okay. It's one of those projects where I do it, I show you all of the mistakes when using silicone inlays, and then when you come to do it, you can do it perfectly with absolutely no air pockets or bubbles whatsoever. You are welcome. It's what I'm here for. And yes, again, people often ask me if I practice before I put a video out. No, I don't. That's a lot of product, okay? I would rather create something handmade with love, not perfection, and then we can talk about all of the ways in which we could do things differently next time. That is kind of how I like to do things. there's never been a video on my channel that has come out utterly perfect, because where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? Any little mistake after that is going to be picked up. It's easier for me to make mistakes in every single video than it is for things to come out completely perfect. You get where I'm coming from. Okay, so now I am placing them upside down in the resin. I'm realizing at this point the resin could be a little bit deeper, but there's really no room for that. So we have to make do with what we've got. This works perfectly for the crosses. So if you did go ahead and make your own silicone inlays using the mould I showed you, you will have these crosses, and it works perfectly with these crosses. Because these crosses are shallow, they are flat, they lay perfectly in the resin, just beautifully in the resin. The skulls, not so much, because the skulls are deeper, they're heavier. They started to flop to the side. They started to kind of just fall to one side. Whether that was the left side or the right side, they weren't sitting flat. So I was a bit like, what do I do? I can't just sit here for hours holding them in place. I added a little bit more resin. Now, bearing in mind, we still need space. We still need space for that black background. But yeah, I was a little bit panicky. At this point, I took my gloves off because I needed to do some work with this plastic sheeting. I decided to sellotape the inlays in place. This was the only thing I could think of doing that was going to hold those skull inlays in place, flat, have them not rocking side to side, and put tape across them. So yes, I took my gloves off just to work on this, making sure that I wasn't touching the resin, because you know how I am with PPE, guys. PPE is so important to me. This was my plan. So then I just got a cocktail stick, making sure I wasn't touching the resin, to push these inlays back because they had moved. And that is what you see me doing here. I really wanted it, I wanted it even. I wanted it symmetrical. The one in the middle to be in the middle, and the crosses to be equal distance apart from the skulls, etc., etc. But this is about, I want to say it's the next day, but it's later, so it's well over 24 hours. Yeah. The gaps, they're not evenly spaced like the baubles on my Christmas tree. The gaps are bigger in some places than they are in others, and I was a little bit gutted by it, but it is what it is. And you can see here on the left hand side of the mould, we've got some parts of the skull face missing. We've also on the left got marks where the tape touched the resin. I was gutted. I was like, no, why today? But yeah, like I said, we don't practice these things. We just learn together and don't make the same mistakes that I did. Having said that, the inlays worked. They still embossed. We are going to be using the golden Chameleon Powder by Let's Resin. Now, the Chameleon Powder I used around the outside was the plum, and the golden, I felt like it would work alongside the plum and contrast it quite dramatically, because we've got purple against gold. The golden is definitely by far the furthest away from the plum. So that's what I went with. I really didn't want to do the whole entire thing in the plum, because I can imagine you sitting at home like, plum again, Claire, come on, like move on. It's okay to move on. So yeah, I went with golden, and I just used another fluffy brush. This time I'm using a fluffy paintbrush because I couldn't find my fluffy makeup brush. I've put it down in front of me. It's somewhere in front of me. I just couldn't see it at the time. So I'm just using a paintbrush, and that was absolutely fine. It worked perfectly fine to make sure that all of my inlays were completely and utterly coated in that chameleon powder. Now, the resin was shallow. I therefore had to pin them down with the tape, as you saw. This did two things. This created some air pockets that I really didn't want, and when we get an air pocket we get some crazy detail. And also it kind of squished them. It kind of squished the silicone against the mould. So we also have some flattening of the design in spaces. So like I said, I'm here to show you what I did and what I would do differently next time, that we can learn together. Next time I would use a deeper mould. Whilst I absolutely love this tray, and I think it's perfect for the 5 when you want things like to be symmetrical the way I have in a pattern. Perfect, absolutely perfect. But it doesn't leave you much space. There's not much space to play around with in the top layer. So yes, things I would do differently next time. I would use a mould that has more of a generous back on it, so we've got more room to play and really bury that silicone inlay into the resin. My only worry there is that it will then still tilt off to the side. So yeah, lots of things to think about, lots of things to figure out. What you could do is let your resin thicken up. So you could use like a Vista Cascade, which is a 24-hour cure time. Let it thicken up for a solid hour, 40 minutes even, before you put your inlays in, and then they would be less likely to rock to the left or tilt to the right, and then you would get that flat image that you want. And I think moving forward, that is how I would use these inlays. But here we are, we live and learn. It's all lessons, and that is what I love most about my work that I do here, that not only do I have fun, but I really learn from every single video about methods that I would use going forward, and I hope you appreciate that too. Here we are using the black resin to fill the backs up, and that is all. As mentioned in so many videos, I really feel like for those of you that are with me every single week, I literally love you guys. I appreciate you so much, but I do feel like you must feel like I'm repeating myself over and over, like this resin's from Vista, and it will all be linked below. But for anyone who's new here and watching, it will be the first time you are hearing it. I am a Let's Resin Ambassador, so the details for your 10% discount will be down below. I am also an affiliate for Let's Resin, which means I earn money on commissions, on sales. So for every sale, I'm massively appreciative. For Vista Resin, I am an ambassador. I'm not an affiliate, so I do not earn money from Vista, but you will get your code down below in the description box to quadruple your miles. And look at this. I love it, guys. Like, despite the wobbly wonky, despite the air pockets, which have got my skulls looking more like Cyclops than anything. Look at the guy on the left has actually got a fake eye, like proper Arnold Schwarzenegger fake eye. But yeah, the air bubbles, the air bubbles, they're in unfortunate places. They are in unfortunate places. The crosses for me win this one. They came through. They worked a dream. Do I wish I just used crosses? Kind of no. I really do like the way the skulls have come out. And I'll tell you why for. Even though half the face is missing on the middle one, it looks like he is under fabric. It looks like he's peeking through some curtains. Very eerie, very spooky. So despite all of the mishaps and despite this not being utterly perfect, I do really love the outcome. I do. I love the gold against the purple outline. Like the rim is in the plum chameleon, and I love it against the gold. So I'm glad I went with 2 different shades. Could have gone with all of the colours. Could have gone with 3 different shades. Just done the skull and cross in one colour and then filled them up with resin. Let that dry, let that cure. And then the next day, dust the surface area with a completely different colour. So we would have even got even more of a wow impact. But who has 3 days? Not me. And that's a little technique you can take forward if you would like to try this. You could do them all in completely different colours. It would still work. I absolutely love it. Like I showed you there, perfect for pens. If you just wanted it on your desk, perfect for pens, perfect for anything you wish to put in there. But yeah, I really am so happy with the way it came out. Moving forward, a deeper resin would be needed for those inlays because they really are thick and chunky. But still, I love it. I love it. I'm glad I used the inlays. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I appreciate you all so much if you're still here. We're nearly 14 minutes in. If you missed the inlay video, I will link it. Anything else will be in the description box, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.